funny. When I think about what Isaiah 6:1 says, at the point at which I was at my lowest, I never would have considered myself to be a captive. I kept telling myself it's just an extreme, lofty term that refers to a person who's been taken prisoner. At the time, I got it stuck inside my head, thinking literally, telling myself that that wasn't me. Yet there I was, bound by sheer inability, held captive by my own anxiety and depression, dropped in a hole bigger than I could have imagined. But if I didn't know, how could anyone else? What held me there was the weight of my mom's death at 14. It didn't quite hit me yet until I moved 60 miles west and started my first year of high school. That's when I fell, all my fears, all my worries crashing down on me. My captors swept me up like a storm hits a boat. Never had I been so confused as to what I was to do, how I was to move on, why this had happened to me. This focus consumed me. Why? I asked Abba why. I asked him so many times I began to question its effectiveness. And the more I slipped into depression, the more dangerous the tempter would become. What he did was sly and cunning, yet perfect. He had me right where he wanted me. His temptation was exactly what he needed me to do when he turned me against myself. Because the only one harder on me than the tempter is the person staring back in the mirror, constantly self-criticizing, saying I'm never good enough, always comparing me to others, never one to forgive myself. If there was ever a moment for me to break, to stop trying and give in, it was then. In my prison, there I was, drained of all my energy, bogged down in my misery. Yet by Abba's grace, I never slipped so far into thinking execution. Yet the question still remained, what was I doing here? 3 years of that sinking feeling, 3 years of anguish, I felt stuck and alone. But even in those years of despair, Abba kept my head above the water. I think about what my mom wanted of me. She said to me, keep trusting Abba, don't turn away from him. And in all that time of pain and suffering, I couldn't keep my mind off what she said. My thoughts were consumed with what she would have thought if I had done something I regretted. Yet I still felt helpless, not knowing how I could get out of this. I continued to ask Abba to intervene. More darkness fell upon me with the situations in my life. I couldn't imagine it getting better. And yet, Abba held me tighter than I thought. In the darkness, he was there. Even in all that darkness, there was always a small light, but I didn't notice it until all that time had passed. And before I knew it, his light shined upon me. There wasn't a single moment, a moment where suddenly I was all better, but from the faith I kept in Abba, the grasp the tempter had on me slowly loosened. And Abba vanquished him. For the first time in many years, I felt the weight lifted off of me. I began to feel the breath of life again. My prison door opened, and it was then I was released. No longer bound, no longer captive, free.
My answer came in 3 words. End my life. It was the only option. There was just too much pain, too much brokenness. I had to do it. I had to do it. Over and over, my brain echoed, I have to do it. Only 11, and settled on the bathroom floor. I was about to make a decision that wasn't mine to make. I was a deceiver. I deceived the world. The abuse I held deep, the torment I held deep, the misery I held deep. Me? I'm fine. Me? I'm doing good. Me? I'm happy. Depressed? Oh, no, not me. I was a deceiver. I deceived myself. In the reflection I spoke, you are stupid, ugly, unwanted, hated, worthless. Better if dead. I was a deceiver. Dear God, I prayed, I begged, I pleaded. Take my life. I don't want it. End it. Please, please, please. Just Just let me die. Lord, I just want to be with you. Beyond my understanding, you didn't do it. Award my desire to end my life. So it was up to me. I had to do it. I had to do it. I deceived myself. This life had no purpose. So, with the sound of water to drown out my doubts, I selfishly held death in my hands, counting down to motivate. 3, 2, and then a knock, an interruption. My plans hindered. I was gonna do it. I had to. No, I heard in my heart. No. It was unexplainable. That moment, I felt his presence. You are loved. You are wanted. You have worth. Your life has purpose. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I was an open wound in need of rescue from this prison of darkness I let captivate myself. And he came. These scars are still here. The pain, it still comes back, but his presence that never ceases. Out of brokenness comes purpose. A purpose for my life. A purpose for his glory. So I pray, I beg, I plead. Dear God, take my life. I don't want it. I give it to you. These hands, these feet, this voice, I give it to you. So please, please, please take my life, Lord, and make it yours.
I see my life in a mobile, disparate images and experiences swinging. Swimming through air on rod and string, my past fractured half-memories give a complicated backstory, my life in disarray. As I look, I see a dot, a sleek blot with legs and wings, a black beetle climbing up from that hanging thing, climbing toward the center string. He stops, turns, and bites the rope, threatening this broken life to oblivion. The bug is my own construction, born from fear and pain, mine being ugly, friendless, and insufferable. That dark machination born from lies, sent to destroy me, from me to me. The story that I told myself seemed meaningless. Looking at every disjointed piece, I saw death by myself the only option. Suicide was a delicious logic in my mind. No one would even notice I was gone. My family took notice, and they paid a man to be my friend. He happened to be an expert in insects and had seen my fevered desire before. It took only 2 examinations before he took the bug and smashed it. What would happen if you were to die? The man asked. I guess my friends and family would miss me, the mobile replied. Your family? The man inquired. Yeah, like my brothers and sisters, I said. Name them. My whole world clicked together. My memories shone like the sun, and I was left to name each one. Siblings full of loving kindness, a life full of life, a past I had never considered. I wept. I wept for them in my absence, and the blades never touched my arm again, nor the beetle threatened my life. I see my life in a mobile, disparate images and experiences swinging, a beauty of glass, metal, and string. Fractured half-memories catch the sun, and I shine.
Everything was good, and then it wasn't. I was fine, and then I wasn't. I was happy with my life, and then I wasn't. I wanted to be alive, and then I didn't. I asked the voices to be quiet, and they didn't. I prayed for my pain to end, and it didn't. I begged for relief to come, and it didn't. I wanted to take my own life, but I didn't. I was scared to get help, but I did. I hoped this wouldn't affect me anymore, but it did. I thought I wouldn't get any better, but I did. I was terrified to keep on living, but I did.
I was 13 when I recognized the voice of the enemy for the first time. I was lying in my bed, the lights were off, and a dark presence began hovering at the foot of my bed. In an instant, all my senses clawed intensely at my skin. I wanted to panic, but instead I chose to keep the fear locked in. And then I heard or sensed a cruel whisper, cold and strangely sweet. Tell me you're right, you know. You've been mistreated. Why don't you sit in your defeat? I knew I should run. I had become a Christian years before, but those were words I wanted to believe. And so I believed them. Life moved on. Weeks went by without another visit from the dark. But no matter how good my life became, I knew I wore the devil's mark. By 15, I was addicted to pornography, hopelessly enslaved to my own fantasies. At 16, I gave up trying to be good. I felt unseen and unknown, and so I cursed the world and God as the dark visits intensified. The whispered lies made me feel alive, convincing me that I was right, that God was just unjustified to strip me of my pride and try me because it felt like no one loved me. Why me? But pride turned to apathy, and apathy to resentment. Resentment fostered hatred, and hatred soon became depression. By 17, I'd planned the scene of my own suicide. But I'd be lying if I said trying to kill myself felt right. It didn't. I'd starved myself, deprived myself of food and drink and sleep. In preparation for my final act, I could no longer cry or even think. My heart was cold, and I could not have told you whether I was saved or not, when suddenly I sensed a terror greater than anything I'd ever felt. A vision engulfed me, and a shadow began to push me off a cliff. Below me was utter darkness, and I knew it was the abyss. I saw my life flash before my eyes, the pit of hell open up before me. In wide-eyed fear and utter dismay, I clung to the floor below me and screamed out from my heart, "Oh my God, I have been so wrong. I need you now to save me. Save me. Save me now. My God, forgive me." At my cry, the vision disappeared, and I fell asleep. And when I awoke, I saw the sun was shining, and it made me weep. For peace was coursing through my bones, not agony or hate. I felt alive for the first time. God was not finished with me yet.